I'm Talky Tyler, and I'm going to podcast with you.
Oh, that's great. I don't know where regular Tyler is, but that's awesome. Um, Now, Talky Tyler, why is it that you have a pencil, a very sharp pencil?
That's for after, to stab you.
What? Ow! 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 Why? Why are all the podcasting dolls evil?
Hello.
It's so creepy. Hello and welcome to Twilight Zone Tuesdays. My name is Nathan.
And I'm Talky Tyler.
So, if you did not catch that, we're talking about the Twilight Zone episode Living Doll, which is season 5, episode 6. This first aired November 1st, 1963. And this series is Twilight Zone Tuesdays is 13 of some of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes that Tyler and I are watching together, and then we're talking about them for 13 minutes. And oh boy, is this thing creepy. Sorry,
Who you calling creepy?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't realize I was the creepy one here, but if you say so. So we do have a sponsor for today's podcast. So our sponsor is from the toy makers who brought you Talky Tina. We've got an all-new lineup of talking dolls, and they're all a little bit edgy. How about Back Talky Timothy? Damn, kid, I can't believe your parents haven't sold you to the circus. Or Sarcastic Sammy. Nice face. Did you get a discount from the plastic surgeon? There's Blasphemous Brian. After you went to church, Jesus asked for his resurrection to be reversed. There's Erotica Eric. Hey, sailor. Toot toot, tough guy. And Body Shaming Betty. Ugh, looking at you makes me wish we could airbrush people in real life. Enjoy all of these and others available at toy stores everywhere. Yeah.
Forget about me.
And of course, Talky Tyler, the evil podcasting doll. Stop stabbing me. All
Not
right.
until you're dead.
Can we at least get through the podcast first?
All right.
Thank you. All right, folks. I hope you enjoy.
Bye.
There is a fifth discussion beyond that which is known to man. It is a discussion as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between anger and joy, between silence and outrage, and it lies between the pit of Nathan's fears and the summit of Tyler's knowledge. This is a discussion of intellectual properties. It is a podcast which we call Ignore the Bell.
Hey, it's regular size Tyler.
Hey, wait, what do you mean regular size Tyler? Is there
Oh.
another one here?
There was. You mean that thing is in the room unaccounted for? Talky Tyler with the very sharp pencil?
Talky Tyler? What? That thing just sits in the corner all day.
I'm so glad that we are separated by a national border right now. You're in big trouble, dude.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Let's just get into the episode.
Okay. Living Doll or Child's Play.
Right.
Right? Because this definitely influenced Child's Play and all of the Chucky movies and a whole bunch of other things, right? There's the Simpsons parody of this and the Annabelle films, this whole possessed, evil, creepy doll that the kid, I think the creepiest part of this is that the little girl loves this thing and do you know what I mean? That she
like
sleeps
can't
with it.
survive without it.
Yeah.
Like as soon as it gets removed from her, then she starts literally crying.
Right.
There are tears coming down her face. What has this doll done? Like imprinted on her or something?
Totally. Yeah. So I wanted to mention a couple things before we get into the actual discussion. So this was written, the story credit goes to Charles Beaumont, but it was actually written by his good friend Jerry Soule, who wrote for The Twilight Zone, then Star Trek, then The Outer Limits. And what happened was, because I had already done a little bit of research on this, so this is not a Serling episode, but Charles Beaumont wrote the short story The Howling Man and then turned it into the episode. He adapted it into the teleplay of The Howling Man. But then what ended up happening is he got incredibly sick. He had some kind of disease affecting his brain. It's unclear exactly what, but he had committed to so many different writing assignments. So many of his writer friends, they covered for him, and they would write things and submit things in his name because he had already made a however many episode commitment to like the Twilight Zone and to whatever else. So it's an interesting thing that this is credited as Charles Beaumont, but maybe he just had the idea, but he didn't have the ability to write it at that point in his life.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
because when I had read it before with The Howling Man, then he definitely wrote the short story and then the teleplay. And then with this one, then I saw, oh, it's Charles Beaumont again. And then I was reminded of, oh, right, he got really sick. And then people started kind of covering for him and helping him. And this is one of those episodes. So,
Right. And what a fantastic concept this is. This premise is, I mean, horrifying. And the
Yeah.
Twilight Zone is even not as bad as like the Chucky movies or whatever,
right.
but the germ of the idea is there, and it's like,
Yeah.
this is already terrifying.
Yeah, it's really creepy. And I think one of the things that makes this, I think, in some ways creepier than Child's Play is that in Child's Play, you get an explanation for
Right.
how this serial killer got into the doll. So we kind of know what we're dealing with. But with this one, there's no backstory, there's no explanation. It's just a complete mystery of
Right.
why this thing is evil. And like they've been selling these things all over. And it's like, is this just one random evil doll? Or are there others that are like
Right.
this? Why is it evil?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny because obviously Child's Play is like clearly influenced by this, but
Sure.
I instantly was reminded of the Simpsons episode with
Yes.
the Krusty doll
Yes.
that that tries to kill Homer. Yeah, I'm
'Cause that's a-
Krusty the Clown. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I see what your problem is here. You got it set on evil.
Right. Yeah.
That's how it gets resolved. There's just a setting on the back. And then,
Yeah.
because that is a direct parody of this episode of the Twilight Zone. And so, and it's also, the episode stars Telly Savalas, right, who played Kojak. He was a big star. He was a big star. But yeah, he was on Kojak and then a bunch of other things too. But people would, from a certain generation, would definitely recognize him and go, "Oh, it's Telly Savalas." So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I was struck by the resemblance to Homer Simpson.
that's hilarious. That's so funny. You're right. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. So this episode, outside of the outstanding premise and the fact that we don't get any explanation for why this doll is the way it is, I love how this is the stepdad who is in this role, and that is causing so many of these issues where he can't have children, and so the wife clearly has been upset at him for a little while, or at the very least he seems to think that she is. But I think the implication is there that she is at least a little disappointed by this. And they've clearly had, these arguments time and time again. But yeah, so I think that adds something really interesting where it's like, oh, well, yeah, he doesn't really connect with his daughter or stepdaughter. And all of that. And I think that's just it's really, really brilliant to create this extra sense of distance, because he doesn't want her, like, sure, he kind of wants her to be happy, but he doesn't really want that, like, as much as a father, a blood relative would be more inclined to do.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's more even if he had his own kids, I think the way I read it is it's more he's kind of a tough guy dad, where he's not so good with having, like, raising girls, that maybe he would do better with boys. But even then, only like stereotypical boys,
Right. Yes.
right? But this does what really good horror should do, or at least what really good horror does, like, and what's absent from kind of bad horror, which is that you've got the high concept premise, because what sells the episode is this doll is actually evil, and it's, you know, in this power struggle with the stepfather, right?
Yes.
That's what sells it. You're like, whoa, evil doll, that it's a talking doll. But yeah, like that's obviously the high concept part of it. But then you go, but there's something much, much deeper going on here. And
Yeah.
most good horror does that too. It's really about other things,
Right.
where there's some kind of, you know, struggle within a family, tension between characters, whether it's dealing with grief or whatever, right? There's all kinds of interesting things. Like a really good example of that would be the Babadook,
Mm.
which a lot of people will point to that and say, like, it's maybe the monster itself is not even necessarily real. It's metaphorical for, you know, the grief that this family's going through. And that's what makes this episode extra interesting and adds a whole bunch of depth. So instead of it just being a really shallow, evil talking doll that's trying to kill this guy,
Yeah.
instead it's the breakdown of this family, that there was already a lot of tension there before bringing this, introducing it into the family.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so true. Like good horror has a deeper level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that one of the things that is really great about this episode, that is part of the premise, is that no one else can tell that this doll is alive, is threatening the main character. And I think
Right.
that that's also really good. If you just have a killer doll on the loose, then it's like, okay, yeah, that's really scary. But in this episode, then it's like, yeah, but it's only after one person, and nobody else even thinks like that they're telling the truth. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about with this doll like talking. Like, yeah, it's got the voice box in it, but that's it.
Right. And that's such a great Twilight Zone premise, right? If you're looking at something like
Mhm.
Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, it's
Yes.
he even suspects like maybe I'm crazy, and like everybody's going to think that I'm crazy, and struggling with this whole question of sanity, and
Yeah.
trying to convince. And good horror often does that. Maybe like not just good horror, but that's such a trope of horror where
Hmm.
nobody believes a person who's insisting that this stuff is actually happening, and you as
Yeah.
the audience are just like, you can see it, but you feel helpless to do anything, because you get
Yeah.
this sense of isolation as a result, where this guy feels like he has to deal with this all on his own.
Right. Um, yeah. So it's interesting. I don't even know really what to think of like who is the actual evil one in this situation and who is the good one. Do you know what I mean? Like it's obviously the doll shouldn't be trying to murder him, but she doesn't start out with that. Like she starts out just saying like, I don't really like you that much. Um,
Right.
yeah, so I think that that's kind of an interesting thought of just, you know, yeah, I don't know, because he definitely is um he's not really the best father and or
Absolutely.
husband.
um
Yeah.
there's obviously been tension in the family for a while,
Hmm.
and that it's who knows how long they've been married for, but the girl does call him dad. Like there's not a
Right.
weird other name. So it seems like he's been in her life for a pretty significant period of time, and there's definitely tension. And it is true that the doll starts out just saying like, I'm not sure that I like you, or whatever she says exactly. I don't think that I like you. And but even, I guess the question is, why does the doll not like him? Does the doll
Right.
not like him because he doesn't want it in the house, or is it because the doll is defending the daughter?
Right. Yeah.
Like, is it that she's on the daughter's side, and if the father, the stepfather in this case, is just really, really nice to his daughter, that the doll will be fine with him? Or is it that the doll feels threatened by him because he's like, I don't want another one of these dolls in the house. So he immediately is like, I don't want this here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good question. Yeah, I don't really have an answer for that. I
Yeah,
think there's
because
just
the episode doesn't answer that. It doesn't provide us with really any indication whatsoever. So then the question is, would it have always ended up in this
Mhm.
situation? Because then the doll threatens the mother at the end, and the mother's certainly really nice to her daughter.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
never
Yeah,
any
that's true.
indication that she isn't doting on her, and that she, will do whatever it takes to take care of her daughter. And she kind of, even if not spoils her, at least provides for her when her daughter really wants a new doll, and she's been looking at it for months. So then she goes and buys it and justifies the purchase. So all of that indicates that the mother's really kind to her daughter, and the doll still feels compelled to say, you better be nice to me. Because I
Right.
guess the doll does say
Yeah,
that, you better be nice to me, not you better be nice to your daughter. Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then even I mean, even after the stepdad gives the doll back to the daughter, then that's when the doll appears on the stairs
Yeah.
and coaxes him out
Yeah.
to fall down the stairs and everything. So yeah, yeah, the doll is just evil.
Yeah, I think so. But what does the doll want? Because in Child's Play, it's obvious. It's like he wants to get out of this doll and back into his own body, right? Or into a human body. And he doesn't want to be stuck as this doll forever. I'm assuming, I'm pretty sure that you still have not seen Child's Play. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
That's what I figured. But in this, what does the doll want? Does the doll really want to be with the little girl and to just be loved and adored? Or does it want to be taken care of, but it doesn't? But what does it need? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I guess the answer is watch all the Toy Story movies. What do the
Yeah.
toys want? Them being loved by a kid or played with is their ultimate goal. And so I could see that being, what this doll is looking for, but it is, yeah, unclear as to what its motivations are.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah,
And
that's
that in
that's another
part,
connection, with Toy Story, of course, being a riff on this as well.
yeah, I was gonna say that I mean, I haven't seen Toy Story 4, but I'm just looking here, and it says the character of Gabby Gabby in Toy Story 4 is inspired by Talking Tina, according to director Josh Cooley.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Gabby Gabby. I don't know that one because I haven't seen Toy Story 4.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is a doll similar to Talky Tina.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Um, yeah, so anyway, there is a lot of really interesting stuff going on in this episode, and it was clearly, as most of these Twilight Zone episodes are, it sets up such a great world by just
Yeah.
this germ of an idea, just this premise that is
Yeah.
so rich and full. They're just like, I want to see it expanded in every different direction. And I'm
Exactly.
glad to see that, it has been,
It
uh,
has.
yeah, it has been interpreted in many different ways. And
Right.
yeah, been the jumping off point for a lot of different creatives. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just it. Because as we mentioned, obviously with Chucky, but then also with Annabelle, those films do a good job of that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so another thing, and because it doesn't give us these answers, it just kind of presents these questions. Because this doll exists, then you start thinking, well, how did it come to exist? What does it want? What does it want from the people who are, in the house, the mother and the father? What are How do you take care of this? But
Right.
then the other thing that's super interesting, that we don't get any answers to this, but the doll is indestructible.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know. It's frightening because what do you even
Yeah,
do at that point?
I know.
Like, at least with Chucky, as far as I know, then he does get damaged and such, right? Like, doesn't
Oh
he?
yeah,
Yeah.
like
So with this one, there's just like, what do you even do? You can't just crush it, apparently. You can't burn
no,
it. You can't um you can't saw it in half.
yeah, like he tried things that you're like, because he went to like 10 right away, or at least like 9 on the scale of like damage that you could do to this thing. He didn't
Yeah.
start by, I don't know, like just trying to throw it. And do you know what I mean? He was
Yeah.
like, I'm going to put this thing in a vice and
Yeah.
like I'm going to use a blowtorch. I'm going to use a circular saw, like a table saw, and I'm going to like shove this thing into it. It's like, wow, you went to like a really high level to try to destroy this thing. Um, that was
Yeah.
pretty extreme, and none of them worked. So the question is, well, was this thing created or like born? What is this? What are we dealing with? And why can't you destroy it?
Yeah.
Is it the only one that exists? And yeah, how do you deal with this thing? It seems sort of like with the episode It's a Good Life with Anthony
Right.
of, well, if this thing really is indestructible and you better stay on its good side. It's just this is
Hmm.
our life now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, because I am so interested to see, how the stepdad, because he's not dead from what we can tell, right? He is still alive.
I think it's meant to show that he's dead,
Oh,
even though
I,
that should not kill him.
right. I thought that he was like blinking or something, but um,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. At
You might
least,
be right. I mean, like you look at that and you're like, that shouldn't kill a person, but
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, because I'm thinking like, he could be paralyzed or something, which would be horrible. But yeah, how does he act after that? If clearly nothing he does is going to get rid of this doll,
right.
and nothing is going to, make it stop attacking him. So what do you even do?
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of wish that because he's so at first he's bemused by this thing where he
Hmm.
thinks somebody's playing a prank on him, and then when he starts to suspect maybe nobody's playing a prank on me, maybe this thing really is like sentient to some degree,
Hmm.
and even if it is evil, that he's still kind of bemused by it. He's like, okay, what's a doll going to do to me? You're a doll.
Right.
And he realizes too late that this thing can actually get to him if it wants to. But don't you desperately want him to engage in some kind of discourse with this thing to
Yes,
say,
absolutely. Yeah.
what do you want? Like, how can I make it up to you? Like, because we just don't get any of those things, and I think it's good that the episode doesn't do it, because then
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
just left wanting more. You're like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
come on, please, just answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's really
Absolutely.
all that I have to say about the episode. It's just such a fun episode. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Great premise. Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say other than, oh, Talky Tyler is moving again. Oh,
oh,
oh dear.
ah,
Stab. Stab.
Talky Tyler, what do you want?
And we're ending it here.
Oh, tune in next week.
Yes, if we decide to do a sequel series, if I can survive the wrath of Talky Tyler.
Exactly. Yeah, because this is, unless we change the order of it, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to commit to this. So this is going to be episode 13 of Twilight Zone Tuesdays. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the end of the limited run series that we've been doing with this. So if you have really enjoyed this, then please like, share, subscribe, all of that, and then comment and let us know.
Yes.
If people are interested, we'll keep doing this. If
Mhm.
there's just complete indifference and nobody comments at all, then I guess it'll just be like, all right, I guess we're done. Um,
Yeah.
I've loved doing it, but I
Me
do
too.
want
Yeah.
to make sure before doing this, like, committing to this, that there's some value for some people out there, because I want to keep going. So I hope that you folks have enjoyed this.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been so much fun, and I want to have extra incentive to watch more Twilight Zone episodes.
Me too. I know. I feel the same way. And yeah, I'm almost at the point of even if nobody watches, we'll just do it again.
Right. Almost, but
Yeah.
Come on, people, just let
Exactly.
us know.
I do need a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, and encourage us to keep doing these. But otherwise, then you can continue watching, ignore the bell and other stuff that I put out. All right. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.
Imagine, if you will, subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Leave your comments below, and maybe, just maybe, you'll receive a response. All for a channel referred to by many as Ignore the Bell.